All right, thank you so much for coming. You know, we planned this for a couple of weeks ago when the storm and the freeze all happened. And we had to make a big adjustment. And fortunately, Friends Meeting was available again for just tonight. And so we were so determined to have this program that people said, Friday the 13th? Are you jinxing it? But because you're here, we're regarding this as a wonderful success. We thank you very much. And I hope you've had a chance to go around to some of the tables. Those are representatives of some of the organizations that are in or of any of the organizations. Kelly. Jonathan. I want people to know who the people are that spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to do political education, how to organize demonstrations, how to put together a program. So that's why I really wanted to make sure that everybody was acknowledged. Okay, I'm Diane Mathowitz. Does anybody know me? Okay, that's because I think I'm the oldest person in the room, and I've been in the movement since 1972. Sometimes I have to think back. Could that be true? 72? And what I want to say is that the struggle is hard, but the people that you meet and the changes that you see as a result of collective activity and struggle makes every one of those horrible meetings, every one of those missed events, like where were they, all worthwhile. And so we are here because we are all, I'm just going to say, mad, angry, outraged at what has been happening to the people of Venezuela. Can I ask how many people in the room have had an opportunity to go to Venezuela after the Bolivarian Revolution? Damani's not raising his hand very high. So I can just testify to the presence of a genuine people's movement with what everybody says, everyday people, average people. People aren't average. All the workers and peasants and women and LGBTQ, they're not average. And anybody in the struggle is certainly not average. You are all outstanding. So, without going on too much further, we have 3 members of the coalition who are going to talk. But what we really, really, really want to do is engage you in discussion, conversation, answer questions. Motivation is our key. We want you to join our coalition. Okay? That's the end goal. And we want more and more people to become active, not just on Venezuela, but on Cuba, on Haiti, on Puerto Rico, on Palestine, on Iran, on just Congo, just go on and on and on. So I will not speak much longer. But again, I really thank you for coming out tonight. And you have defied the curses. And so this is going to be a great meeting. I went around and asked our 3 speakers, what's the one thing I should say about them? I could say things like I've known Damani a long time. But I have on this piece of paper the one thing I'm supposed to say. So I'm going to start with Ronnie Bullock. Ronnie's sitting there in the middle. He is a veteran. And he was in the Army for 21 years. Whoa. And he is fighting for I can't read your writing. The force, for a force, but not for an offensive police force or military. So, Ronnie, you've got 7 minutes to dazzle the audience with your experiences. Okay.
All right. Again, I'm Ronnie Bo for showing up and taking your precious time to be here with us. Okay. I'm a part of Veterans for Peace, and I've been in the military for 21 years, and half of that time has been outside the country, various countries, and so I'm very empathetic to other people. Okay. Part of our statement is, well, let me say this about Veterans of Peace. We're not the flag-waving, Kool-Aid drinking type, okay? America, right or wrong? No, because if you take that stance, you give, incentive to do right. And so, purpose of statement, some of the things that we believe in. We, military veterans, are greater responsibility to the world. To this end, we will work with others, both nationally and internationally. What we fight for is to increase public awareness of the causes and costs of war, okay? To restrain our governments from intervening overtly and covertly in the internal affairs of other nations, to resist racism and repression in our home communities, to oppose militarism of law enforcement, to end the arms race, to reduce and eventually eliminate nuclear weapons, and to abolish war as an instrument of national policy. Okay. Thank you. Okay, and I'll end with this here. Wrote a letter to President Maduro and his wife. Okay, and pretty much I basically told them to not despair and to remain faithful. Okay, that this was a blatant violation of international law, as the international world knows. Okay, and we have let him know that we have millions of supporters here in the United States, as well as his country, that supported him, that voted for him, and that the cause that we used we kidnapped. He's been kidnapped. He wasn't captured. He was kidnapped. And the same things we're using to kidnap him as we did to Iraq. We accused them of having weapons of mass destruction, which we knew was a lie. Okay, and we accused him of being a drug trafficker. But we released a drug trafficker from Honduras, Honduran president. We released him, and so it don't make sense. It don't pass the smell test, and and then the murdering of fishermen, okay, over 100. It's pathetic. So that's what we're fighting for. Okay, I'd like to end with that.
So our next speaker, I have come to know as one of the hardest working members of the coalition. And so there was no question when we figured out who would be the 3 coalition members that Steph would be one of our speakers. And for how many people already know Steph? Look at that. So you are totally aware of not only her determination to do a good job on everything she does, also her clear politics. And I'll tell you what, she's just plain old nice. It's nice to be with political people that are nice. So, hey, Steph, I'm going to pass this down to you.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for coming out on this Friday, as many have said. I can actually, so I'm just move a little closer. Ronnie? No, I'm okay. Also, be mean. Let a fascist come in here. Switch up real quick. I had to write down something, so yes, Alliance for Peace, and I also organize with Compas de la Diaspora, But today, I wanted to start with that I was yelling on January 19th when we all decided to go in like 13 to the MLK March. And something that really came to mind, and it's like a last minute thing, and it was a famous quote that many have said, or many probably have heard and seen: a bomb dropped in Vietnam explodes at home. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to end with that. A bomb dropped in Vietnam explodes at home. A bomb dropped in Venezuela, in Haiti, in Iran, in Cuba, in the Congo, in Sudan, explodes in Atlanta, explodes in New York, explodes in the South. It explodes in the South as the global South, the South of the U.S. as part of the global South. And so I just want to sit with that, and that's where I'll start, and I'll end with, I forgot to keep time, so my bad, 7 minutes. I also wanted to, thank you all. I know Diane posed the question of are folks familiar of what's happening, or why this was called? And I just want to reground us in kind of the trajectory of how this coalition came to be. It was on December 17th that, honestly, we don't know who was like, hey, come to the Little 5 Points. It was like a whole list of different orgs in Atlanta organizing. Folks with different focuses of why they organize, different political ideologies. And in that room that usually BAP has their membership meetings, and it's like maybe 20 people, there was at least 60 people, I feel like, in that room, all masked, 60 people. And in that, it was decided, folks broke up into groups, and mind you, December 17th, the illegal kidnapping and terrorist attack that happened in Venezuela didn't happen until January 3rd. So December 17th, folks were already talking about the hundreds, if it might be over the hundreds of the fishermen who were being bombed and killed. There were already the militarization and attacks around the Caribbean Sea in that area, in the region, were happening, and we knew we wanted to do something. So we get together, and lots of ideas. There was like 60 people in the room. And so from that, 5 meetings later, here we are today. And I just want to reiterate why we chose to do this public assembly, why this won't be the last public assembly, and to really truly hone in and understand the purpose, linking that what happens in Venezuela is happening here. What is happening in Haiti is happening here. Cop City has been built. ICE agents, I mean, they're hiring. There's like if you don't see the signs everywhere, the bonuses they're giving, the bonuses that they're having folks sign on for, the killings that have happened, and the killings that were happening in Minneapolis, that was not the first. There's been, I think there were at least 10 deaths before them, just in 2026. It's February 13th. So, not to mention the prior ones. So I just wanted to really, I wanted to kind of link the heightened militarization happening abroad and here. I wanted to link the economic warfare, the starving of Gaza, the starving of Cuba, and those complicit in it. And I wanted to talk about how, I wanted to just highlight that those things are happening here, because actually, if for those who were at the MLK March, it was in Peachtree. Sorry, I don't know the geography very well, but we was in Peachtree, and there's a lot of houseless folks there. And so as we're marching, as people are there, we see a few churches that are there also, because as I said, it's like 13 degrees outside, literally. So we're out there, we're talking with folks, and most of the folks that we were talking with and engaging with were houseless folks. And so in all of that, they were able to connect of what was happening. And somebody really fun, well, some of y'all might not think it's funny. I thought it was funny. They said, what if Putin came and kidnapped Trump? See some laughs chuckling? So, yeah, the outrageousness and the things that we're seeing, and it's happening so quickly, the psychological warfare that is being waged on us, the misinformation war, that we can't even, we can't wake up, we can't live from hour to hour without receiving some news, some kind of alert that heightens our nervous system. And we're under attack all the time, every day. And so I just, I think I'm at 7 minutes, but I'll end with saying that a bomb dropped in Vietnam explodes at home. A bomb dropped in Venezuela, in Cuba, it lands in Atlanta, lands in what we now call the Americas, North America. And what is happening abroad is also mirrored here. And the only way that we can fight and combat and do anything about this really is to unite. The same way that all those folks who came together on December 17th to try to do something about what can we do here in Atlanta? Because it's not one org. It's a Black Alliance for Peace. Yeah, it's a citywide alliance with different orgs involved. But even with the Black Alliance for Peace, it's going to take a lot more. We must shut down Cop City. We must build people power. And we have to engage in a true zone of peace. And so, if anybody wants to talk about this afterwards or ask any questions about anything I've said, let me know. We're here. And again, thank you.
People on TV do this. We're just waiting for this little gizmo. And now I'm going to introduce Damani. Damani and I have known each other for a long time, but he's way younger than me. But we both are on WRFG, by the way. You know, how many people listen to WRFG Radio 89.3 FM? If there's somebody in the room that doesn't, I'm going to talk to you afterwards. And why do you all listen? Somebody say why you all listen. Right. We're political, we're musical, we're volunteers, non-commercial, and I'm going to just plain out say, we're some of the coolest folk in town. And so now I'm going to introduce Damani, who has a program on WRFG, as well as also on the board of directors. And he has such extensive experience with the whole global South that there's no way that he could explain everything that he has experienced, has knowledge of, but he's going to give a crack for it. He's going to try. So Damani, here you go. Oh, right, I was supposed to say what your one thing was. I had them do it, and then I forgot to say. His one thing I'm supposed to say about him is that he fights for total liberation. Can I get an amen for that? All right. Damani.
Greetings, family. Greetings. Bonsoir, buenas noches. I bring you greetings from the Global South and particularly our grassroots communities in Venezuela. I have voice memos that have been shared that if time permits, I might be able to share. If not, then I will pass those forward so that they could be part of the collective knowledge. But know that for me, being in dialogue with folks from Venezuela on a weekly and sometimes daily basis, they provide me a lot of humility, a lot of inspiration because of how they continue to try to survive and make sense of a reality where psychological warfare is a constant, where folks just don't know when the next bomb is going to drop in their neighborhoods because that's where many of those bombs landed, in folks' neighborhood. I am part of many coalitions, but the coalition that I am representing here tonight and whose message I'm collectively carrying forward is called the Regional Council of Africans in the Americas. have been to Venezuela at least a handful of times doing work, and I could attest what Diane said, that there it is indeed an intersection of courageous freedom fighters with different positionalities, different worldviews, but one commonality, and that is to see the Bolivarian Revolution actualized, where freedom for their country and the region in general can follow what sovereignty should really mean. So I have some, excuse me, some notes, some thoughts that Diane asked me to prepare. So I will quickly run through that since it does carry some historical pieces, and I do see some youth here in the audience, and I think education for liberation is something that we all should be about. So let's get going. Family, sisters, brothers, comrades in a struggle, and our allied grassroots organizations who have stood up in principled alignment with Black and brown liberation movements across this hemisphere. We are here in Greater Atlanta, a city shaped by Black resistance, Black institution building, and a Black political imagination. Yet what brings us together is not local, right? It's continental, it's hemispheric, it's global. What's unfolding in Venezuela, in Gaza, and the Congo, and in the oppressed cities of communities across the country is not episodic, it's structural. It's part of a long historical architecture that produced the modern world as we know it today. Oppression is not structured. It's not accidental. Oppression does not emerge randomly. It is designed. It is codified. It is transmitted through institutions, schools, media systems, political governance, economic policy, and cultural production. Over time, it becomes normalized, and that's what we're fighting against. The modern world rests on a particular ideological foundation. The white supremacy complex is not merely personal prejudice or hate towards Black and brown bodies. It's a governing logic, a system of power organized around hierarchy. It determines whose humanity is affirmed and who is conditional. It organizes land as property, labor as exploitable, wealth as accumulative, and violence as defensible. We saw that in Minneapolis, right? It establishes value through proximity to whiteness and distance from Blackness. That logic has shaped global governance for over 5 centuries. When you think about 1492 and the worldview and how it expanded, it was not just about land. It was about power and knowledge. It reshaped law. It also reshaped religion and education to justify domination. Empire did not move only through armies. It moved through trade rules, property systems, racial theories, and schools. It established a global ranking of human value. Africa was labeled primitive. Indigenous lands were declared empty. Nature was treated as a resource to be extracted. Human beings were turned into property. This is the foundation of racial capitalism. Let's be clear. This is the blueprint of the modern global order. Law as an instrument of domination is what we're seeing. One of the most durable mechanisms sustaining this order has been the Western legal structure, the so-called UN, the so-called International Court. Law was never neutral in colonial context. It was an instrument of managing labor, protecting accumulated wealth, and stabilizing hierarchy. In 1661, for those that are still in school, the Barbados Slave Code formalized African people as property before Jamestown. The Code Noir regulated Black life across French colonies. In Brazil, Cuba, Guyana, Puerto Rico, and North America, colonial statutes govern movement, punishment, and labor extraction. different jurisdictions, different empires, but the same logic. And what became the United States, slavery became hereditary. Slave patrols evolved into policing institutions. Fugitive slave laws transformed human capture into federal mandate. And in 1865, slavery did not disappear. It just reorganized, we know that. Black codes, convict leasing, still today, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, mass incarceration, different policy areas, continuity of design, y'all. From plantation management to prison management. That same logic is here today. Normalization and permanence. Now it is important to understand that this pattern is not uniquely American. Now I'm going to tie the dots. Let's widen the lens. What we see is the same structure repeated across continents. Apartheid South Africa, the Nuremberg laws of Germany, the French colonial law in Argentina, the Indian Act in Canada, the Aboriginal Acts. Y'all remember the Japanese internment camps in the United States. That's going to happen if we don't stop it. It's going to happen again. Different nations, different histories, but the same governing principle. Oppression becomes legal before it becomes normal. Once it is written into law, it becomes routine. And once invisible, it becomes permanent, unless disrupted by organized people. I think that's why we're here today. So, coalition as a historical method. If oppression is structured, then resistance must be structured as well. Historically, transformative change has never come from isolated communities acting alone. It has come from disciplined coalitions, workers' movements like Diane to my right, to my left, anti-colonial struggles, indigenous resistance, student formations, faith networks, woman-led organizations, Veterans for Peace. Liberation has always required alignment across difference, and that matters because the structure we are confronting has not disappeared. It has adapted. The architecture we have been discussing is not historical residue. It is active. Today, law structures occupation in Palestine, right? Extraction in the Congo, in the Amazon, environmental destruction, in Venezuela, sanctions. This is not accidental instability. This is not underdevelopment. Shout out to Walter Rodney. It is structured extraction. Capitalism provides the engine. Imperialism extends the reach. Colonialism supplies the template. Law stabilizes the arrangement. Military and police enforce compliance. This system is designed, y'all. It's not dysfunction. But what makes this moment distinct is not only the structure, it's the speed. Let's talk about that. The accelerated historical moment. What distinguishes our era is acceleration. We are no longer operating at the pace of print capitalism. We are operating at the velocity of digital systems. The financial collapse of 2008, the pandemic of 2020, artificial intelligence, digital finance, algorithmic media now reshape political and economical life in real time. It compounds. Crisis no longer unfolds gradually. We're fatigued, right? From all of it. The question is, who will govern the transition? Will power consolidate further through surveillance and centralized technological control? Or will communities cultivate decentralized, life-sustaining alternatives? This is the decisive struggle of this generation. And I will stop there. I got more to say, but I'd rather keep it a Q&A, with my here in this room. But, I appreciate the moment of your attention.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly, any of you have now got a comment or a question. Shake your head. Yes, you do.